In this video, we're going to talk about creating encounters in Pokémon Tabletop United. Hey gamers, welcome back to Game Master's Dungeon. I am Brian, your Game Master. Today, we are going to dive into the rules on how to create encounters for Pokémon Tabletop United, looking at the rules specifically stated inside their core rulebook. So the plan is we're going to go over that, and I'm going to show you some examples of what that would potentially look like. Then after that, I'm going to show you some examples of some of the encounters that I have used in my campaign. And then you will notice that the encounters that I have created and used in my game differ from what is in the core rulebook. And I will explain the reasons why when we get to there. So first, we're going to go into the core rulebook, and we're going to take a look at the rules specifically stated in there on how to create an encounter. Alright gamers, so here we are. We're in the PDF. We are on page 473, entitled Basic Encounter Creation Guidelines. Now before we get into this, I would like to mention that you should probably watch my two previous videos on trainer creation and Pokemon creation. We will be using both of those characters in the examples that I will be using after we cover the guidelines here, just so that we're all on the same page. I will put those in the cards above. So first what we're going to do, we're going to just go ahead and get into what the rules specifically state on creating encounters. So what it says to do is multiply the average level of your PC's Pokemon by 2. In the examples that I'm going to use, we're only going to have the one Machoke, who will be level 20. So the average level is 20. We're going to multiply that by 2 for 40 XP. Now this is designed to be your baseline experience point drop per player for the encounter, which should result in about a half a level or so for the Pokemon that your player uses in the encounter. Now this also assumes that you're only using a significance multiplier of ×1. Significance multiplier is basically what it says, right? How significant is the encounter? The multiplier goes from 1 to 5. So the next line here, significance multiplier ×2, will double the baseline experience. Now, this is kind of designed now to level up the player's Pokemon. So to get from level 20 to 21, you need 60 experience points. So 80 experience points would give our Machoke a level with some change toward 22. Then, as you create more important encounters, not only should you increase the significance multiplier, you should also increase the baseline experience you're working with, as this will determine the levels of the enemies that you create. Now, these guidelines assume that each one of these encounters is going to be using these particular guidelines. Now, at the end of this, I'm going to give you some examples of different types of encounters that I've included in the game that I am running. Some that potentially use these guidelines, and then some other types of encounters that I like to use to spice up my game. So it's not always every encounter is some kind of big hurdle to get over. But we're going to talk about that later. Now, what it also says here, there's got some, in these purple boxes are some examples. So let's just go ahead and read through this first example here, just so we all understand it together. So a GM, say as myself, is designing an encounter for 3 level 10 trainers, each with Pokemon around level 20. I multiplied the average by 2 for an experience drop of 40. Because 20, 20, 20 divided by 3 is 20. You double it to 40. And then we're going to multiply this by 3 for the number of trainers. This gives us a total of 120 levels to build an encounter with. The GM, say myself, splits this 6 ways, and I stat up an encounter with 6 level 20 Pokemon. If the battle has an everyday significance multiplier of ×2, then each player gets 80 experience and can approximately level up their Pokemon once from this particular battle. So then the next part here talks about increasing the baseline experience from say 40 to 60, and then giving a large significance multiplier. Basically, this encounter ends up to like 300 experience, so each of the Pokemon are going to level 1, 2, maybe 3 times, depending upon what level they are. But the baseline experience, when it goes to 60 instead of 40, they still multiply it by 3 because there's 3 trainers. Now this is 180 levels of Pokemon that you can build with. In this example, they build 2 level 40 Pokemon and 4 level 25 Pokemon. Now, to say this, I really have not used these particular guidelines, like as they're written, in my game. I kind of create some encounters that are like dangerous, really significant. I have a lot of encounters that are just kind of like a nuisance kind of encounter, stuff that you would find out in the wild. You're not always going to find encounters of significance as you're traveling around. It may be just a couple of weak Pokemon or one really strong Pokemon. You're free to use the guidelines however you wish. Once again, I will go over some of the examples that I've used in my game, so maybe give you some inspiration on encounters that you could use in your game. All right, gamers, so here we are. We're over in my Roll20 game. This is my Route 201 map that I created. If you want to take a look at it. Basically a big long route. I had several encounters through here. Nothing super significant, but several encounters that were kind of fun and neat. Gave them some options for collecting some Pokemon, some hidden items, some berries, things like that. We'll go over stuff like this later, but just so you can kind of see the kind of maps that you could potentially make. If you would like to see a map making guide, or if you would like me to include it in maybe like a live stream, just let me know in the comments below. But let's focus on the task at hand. So what we're going to do, we're going to look at an encounter that I've created based on the guidelines that we just went over. So once again, the average level of our Pokemon is 20. We multiply it by 2 for 40. This is the number of levels worth of Pokemon that we are going to get to build our encounter with. Now remember that we do not include the multiplier from the significance multiplier to our calculation when determining the number of levels we get to build our encounter. Because like as an example, say this encounter, right, that with 40 experience baseline, that basically gives us 40 levels of Pokemon to build our encounter with. If it was a ×3 multiplier, that would give us 120 levels. This would be almost unbeatable for this one trainer and his 1 or 2 Pokemon, however many he's got on his belt. So the significance multiplier is what you're going to give after the encounter during the experience awarding step. So what I've done with our 40 levels, I have created, let's zoom in here. I've created an encounter. So our trainer just entered Route 201, walking down the trail, got his Machoke by his side. A couple of Rattata happened to just scurry out of the brush here and decide to attack our trainer and his Pokemon. Now, battle would ensue. So we're gonna just real quick. This is gonna do like a kind of like a quick mock encounter here, just so we can see what this looks like when you build an encounter and the levels of like, is it easy? Is it hard? I'm going to give you some examples to kind of understand using the same equation to build the encounter, how something can be very easy or it could be really deadly. So I've got my turn order set up here. So what I've done, I've just gone here and I have generated 2 Rattata, right? As a GM, this is an invaluable source. 2 Rattata at level 20. It's got all their stats. It's got all their moves. It's got their weaknesses and resistance. The biggest thing you're going to want to notice here, Rattatas are normal type. They're weak to fighting, so they take double damage. So I'll just show you. So that's the first one. Here's the second one. It basically gives them random natures, randomly allocates their points, but they all have the same moves because they're all the same level. Okay? So we'll scroll back up to the top, so we're going to need that. And now, here's a tip that I've done as well. So instead of statting, like having like 1,000 character sheets in your journal here for all your stuff, when you quick stat stuff like this, what I have done, I have created this. This is just a character sheet with basically nothing on it. I've created it as a Pokemon and as targeted. I didn't give it any stats. It's level 1, right? None of this stuff matters. What I've called it is a generic token to target, because I'll show you. So let's go ahead and open our Pokemon here, his character sheet. We're going to scroll down and say it's his turn, and he wants to use Brick Break on one of these Rattata. Now, what happens if you do not tie a character sheet to a token? I'm going to click, this is a physical attack, so you click the Starburst. This brings up, select my target. I click this. What happens is it gives me this syntax error because there's no character sheet for it to reference when it comes to comparing stats and things like that. But this one, I've tied it to this generic token to target, and I call it whatever I want. This is its HP bar. But now, when I go back here, I can use this, and I can target this guy. Then it'll calculate it, and it'll roll it, without having to have a totally separate character sheet for this encounter, if you don't want to. This just saves me the hassle of having hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of character sheets in my journal to sift through, sort through, things like that. What I do, say the trainer was to catch this particular Pokemon, I would make a note on my sheet to create them a Rattata. Obviously, if they decided to turn around and use it right away, I would have to. But at the point in my game, the players have a pretty good team on their belt, and right now they're not in a position to really swap them out. So everything just goes to the Pokemon PC. But that aside, just so you can see it, so what you do, you just go here, and then I just tie it to here, and then you have to change the name to Rattata 1. Save changes. Okay, so now when I do this, and then it targets that. Obviously, you're going to have to check your evasion, because since there's no stats on that character sheet, you'll have to look here to see what its evasions are. It's got a speed evade 3 for number 1. I still hit. All right, now that we've gone over all of that, let's see how this encounter is going to play out. Remember, this encounter is based on the equation in the core rulebook about building this encounter. So right now it's 2v1. Obviously, the Rattata have the advantage of action economy, but I believe that our Machoke should easily be able to handle these Rattatas. So, first turn, right? Rattata 1, say he'll come up. He's going to use, we'll say he uses Hyper Fang. Okay? So, it's got an accuracy check of 4, so we're just going to roll this here. 15, that'll hit. Because remember, the accuracy check of 4 plus Machoke does not have evasion high enough to where a 15 does not hit. So now we're going to roll the damage. So it's got your damage calculations right here. The one good thing, though, about having it on a character sheet, you'd be able to roll from the character sheet like we did with the Machoke. But this is the sacrifice that I'm willing to make in my game, to roll it all manually like this. So it is 3d8 plus 10 plus 13. So basically 3d8 plus 23. Go to the dice bag. 3d8 plus 23. So Machoke now takes 41 physical normal damage. So we go here to his stats. What is his defense? 12. We subtract 12 from 41, which gives us 29. Now he takes 29 normal damage. So we just go up here, minus 29, down to 46. All right, now it's Rattata's 2 turn. He's going to come up here, and then he's going to use Bite. So we're going to roll this d20, see if he hits, an 8. So you reference the accuracy check, minimum 2. Machoke has a physical evade of 2, so he needed at least a 4. So he hits. We go back here. So it's 2d6 plus 18 is the amount of damage that he takes. So let's go to our dice bag. 2d6 plus 18. He takes 23 physical dark damage. Now Machoke has defense of 12. Reduces that then to 11, but he resists dark by half. So 11, half of that rounded down is 5. So Machoke is going to take 5 damage now. Now Machoke's turn. He is going to use back to Brick. Let us hit Rattata 2. It's got more hit points. So we see that Brick hits because you need at least a 2. Rattata's 2's speed evasion is a 2, so needed at least a 4. So we got a 13. We hit. We did it 46 physical fighting damage. So let's look at Rattata 2's defense. Rattata 2 has a defense of 9, minus 46, 37 fighting damage. Now we look at fighting type. It takes double damage, so 37 times 2 is 74. So he one-shot this Rattata 2. Now it would be your trainer's turn. Now trainer, if they've got combat maneuvers that they can use themselves, or they can issue orders, several different things that they could do. Probably what he would use is if this is his first time encountering Rattata, he would probably use his Pokédex to scan this into his Pokédex to get the information. Then it would go back to Rattata 1, because Rattata 2 is now KO'd. So Rattata 1, now we go back here. Now you look at Hyper Fang. Hyper Fang is an at-will, so it will use Hyper Fang again. Oh, a 4. Hyper Fang, the base accuracy is 4. Remember, Machoke has a physical evade of 2, so he needed at least a 6, so he fails to hit. Next, we go back to Machoke's turn. What is Machoke going to do? Machoke, Brick is at will. We're just going to stick with what works here. Kia. We get a 19. So we almost crit with that. So we're going to deal it 44 physical fighting damage. Let's look at Rattata 1. Rattata 1 has a defense of 11, which leaves it with 33 physical fighting. Normal type take double damage from fighting, so it takes 66 fighting damage. So he is now KO'd. So now it's the end of that encounter. So this encounter, even though there were 2 Pokemon, was still relatively easy. Now that first hit from Hyper Fang still dealt quite a lot of damage. So this is what you're going to want to look at when you're building encounters like this. What kind of moves do the Pokemon have that you're creating? Sure, they may be Rattata. A lot of us think Rattata are kind of, maybe joke Pokemon, or maybe it's your favorite Pokemon. And they are weak to fighting, so he was able to one-shot them, but through action economy. Now, if he would have hit both of these, say if I will use Hyper Fang twice and hit both, Machoke might almost be KO'd. So, but now let's take the same example. Let's say we're going to make a single Pokemon that's level 40 and see how that encounter goes. All right, so now we're over here. This is my Route 103 map that I've created. My players are way past this now, but this is a nice forested, tall grass area. Say you're your trainer, you're going through, got your Machoke with you. Out of the bushes, out of the trees comes Eradicate. Now, according to our calculation, I've created an encounter with 40 levels to build. I've created a single level 40 Eradicate. Once again, I've gone over here to the random Pokemon generator and generated a level 40 Eradicate. So it's level 40, so it's got 3 abilities, all of his different moves. Now remember, when you get higher level, they're going to learn higher level moves, stronger moves that deal more damage. They're going to have higher stats. As you can see, this has a naughty nature, so it's plus attack minus special defense. So this Eradicate hits relatively hard. So we're going to play through just a quick combat round to see how our Machoke can fare against this encounter. All right, so we're back here. I got my turn order already set up. So Eradicate has a speed of 22, so that's where he goes in the initiative order. Trainer and his Machoke both have speed of 10, so that's their respective turn order. So first, the Eradicate would come out and pounces on the Machoke. So we go here. What move would it use? Now this is also where you as GMs are going to have to look at, do you always use moves that are going to be the most effective? Or do you want to use random moves? This is also going to determine how difficult this is. If I use his dark type moves, remember that Machoke is resistant to dark type damage, so he's going to take half damage after his defenses. Or if I use any, say, if I had normal moves that dealt damage, they would be neutral damage, so he would take more damage from those normal type attacks. But this has generated this particular set of abilities here, so we're going to use Crunch. So Crunch has an accuracy check of 2, so let's go ahead and roll our d20 for his attack. Rolls a 14. That's easily going to hit. Machoke does not have evasions high enough to block that. So Crunch, base damage of 8, so it does 2d8 plus 10 plus its attack of 22. So 2d8 plus 32. Let's go over here. Let's hit our dice bag. So 2d8 plus 32. So this dealt it 41 physical dark damage. Let's go to our Pokemon here. It's got a defense of 12, so we're going to reduce that down to 29. And we're going to take half of that. So half of 29 is 14. So we take 14 damage. Okay, not too bad of a hit. Now, our trainer turn, maybe this is his first time fighting Eradicate. He's going to scan it into his Pokédex to get the information and add it to his Pokédex entries. Now, our Pokemon, Machoke, what is Machoke going to do? Obviously, Brick Break is a really strong ability. But maybe we're just going to go with a Karate Chop and maybe try to crit. Now, once again, I've tied this Eradicate to that generic token to target. So we're going to physical. So Karate Chop has a accuracy check of 2 base. We go over here and look at our Eradicate. He has a speed evade of 4. So 4 plus 2 is 6. My 5 does not hit. Next, the Eradicate would go. It's going to use... We will say it's going to use Bite. So let's go ahead and roll it up. Just a regular d20. 12, that'll hit. 2d6 plus 8 plus 22. So basically 2d6 plus 30. Go over here, hit our dice bag. 2d6 plus 30. That's 32 physical dark. Once again, our defense, 12. Reduces it to 20. We take half dark, so we take another 10 damage. So, trainer turn, we'll just skip, go to Machoke. He's going to try to Karate Chop again because it's at will. We're really going to try to get that crit. Do we? We get close, but not quite. So we deal it 39 physical fighting damage. Let's go to our stats here. Has a defense of 13. 13 from 39 leaves us with 26. We double that to 52. So in one hit, he's over half KO'd. All right, now the Eradicate. It's going to use Crunch again. Let's roll it up. That will hit, because Crunch needs at least a 2. And then Machoke's physical evade or speed evade is 2, so he needed at least a 4, which he hits. So now once again, we're going to do 2d8 plus 32. See how great this dice bag macro is? Amazing. So 35, we have a defense of 12, which leaves us now with 23. We take half of that for 11. He goes around down. Now our Pokemon, what is he going to do? We'll hit it with Brick Break, because it hits pretty hard. We'll see if we can knock it out. Nope, we missed again, because remember that speed evade of 4. Back to the Eradicate. He'll use Crunch again. This is kind of how combat goes. This is a good example of what combat's really going to look like for you while you're playing if you're new to the game. It's going to be a lot of this, back and forth, back and forth. Obviously, the more Pokemon and trainers you're going to have in your encounter, the longer these encounters are going to be. That's another thing to be mindful of as well when designing your encounters. If you've got 4 players like I do, they each have an action, their Pokemon have an action. If I pit them against 4 or even 6 Pokemon, we've got 10, 12, something turns we have to go through every combat round. So combat can be pretty lengthy. Just be aware. So back to the Eradicate. He's going to use Crunch. So we had rolled it. We got a 16, so that'll hit with the Crunch. So we're 2d8 plus 32. 40. Minus 12, 28. Half of that is 14. Oh, we're getting low now. Getting low. Only a couple more hits like that, and Machoke's going to go down. So Machoke's really got to pull it out here. So he's going to go with that Brick Break. Ooh, just enough. Because the Eradicate has a speed evade of 4, which means a 6. He needs at least a 6. Because remember, it's greater than or equal to this number. So it hits for 47 physical fighting. Once again, our Eradicate has a defense of 13, which brings us down to 34. We double that now because Eradicate is normal type. It's weak to fighting, which leaves us with 68. Which then KOs this Eradicate. So as you can see, the one Eradicate got us lower than the 2 Rattata did. They didn't deal as much damage, and there's misses. Obviously, there's a bunch of things that will happen. You'll have runs where you miss a lot, or you'll just have times when the players just hit or crit all the time. That's why the game uses dice. But you can see that one single powerful Pokemon takes several more hits and deals considerable more damage. But now let's take a look at an example of a Pokemon that you encounter that's not weak to the damage your Pokemon deals. Alright, so we've come over here to my Route 202 map. So our trainer has been on a long journey, crossed this lake, over these bridges, done some fishing, traveling through this tall grass, and happens to encounter a Gardevoir. Now we've used the same equation, so we've made this encounter with 40 levels, so this is a single level 40 Gardevoir. So we look at Gardevoir. This is the stats we use to randomly generate it. You will notice that it is quarter resistant to fighting. So Machoke is going to have real hard time dealing damage here. And then its moveset is pretty good, but it does have Psychic. Now remember, Machoke is a fighting type, so he's weak to psychic damage. So let's just kind of do a quick playthrough and see how this scenario is going to go. So we look at our turn order. So Gardevoir is first. So from where she's at, she is going to just use Psychic. So it's a base accuracy of 2, plus Machoke has a special evasion and speed evasion of 2, so it's the same. So she needs to get at least a 4. So let's see what we get here. 15. That hits. So now it's base damage 11 because she gets stabbed. So 3d10 plus 10 plus 24. So basically 3d10 plus 34. We'll hit our dice bag. 3d10, 34. 47 psychic damage. Special psychic damage. So we'll look at our Pokemon here. He has a special defense of 11. So 47 minus 11 gives us 36, and we double that, because if we go back here, just so you can see it, double damage from Psychic. So 36 times 2 is 72. Nearly KOs it in a single hit. So now Machoke goes, so he's going to go into the fight here. Obviously, this would be where you would switch and things like that. This is just an example to show you how basically just choosing type of Pokemon can be a big variance on how your encounter plays out. So he's going to hit her with the old Brick Break. 17 easily hits. She takes 43 physical fighting. So let's look at her defense of 19, because she's apparently bold, plus defense minus attack, which actually is not too bad. So 43 minus 19 gives us 24. Now she only takes a quarter of that damage. She takes 6. So now the trainer, he would probably just scan with the Pokédex to add it to the Pokédex, or this is probably where he would switch to another Pokemon. Hopefully he's caught something that's more resistant to psychic damage, so to prevent Machoke from being KO'd. But we're just going to play this out so you can see. You obviously know where it's going to go. Obviously, then Gardevoir is probably going to cast, because Psychic is every other turn, so we can't use it again. Right now, we're going to use Confusion. So let's just hit it here. 16 hits. Machoke is now confused. His turn, he would have to make a check to see if he could act normally. We'll just assume that he does. Once again, then he's going to hit with the Brick Break. Now, does he hit? Gets a 7. Yep, 7 will hit. So 36 minus 19 is 17, and a quarter of that is 4. And then obviously she would hit with Psychic next. See if she just hits. And she does. So now we've KO'd this Machoke. So now as you can see, this encounter is way more deadly for this Machoke than the Rattatas. So when you're building your encounters, really take into account the typing of the Pokemon that the players have, and then selecting the type of Pokemon that you want to use. I'm not saying you can't use Pokemon that are effective against the player's Pokemon, but just be ready for big sweeping battles like this if you don't think about it beforehand. Alright gamers, so that was a few examples of encounters. We went over how to create them, the stats that the book tells you to use. And the only tip that I can give you is I don't follow that really at all. Most times in my game, I create encounters that I want to run, something that maybe would be cool or fun, or maybe include a type of Pokemon that my players would want to catch. So what I did, I asked my players kind of in the beginning some of the Pokemon they would like to see in this game. So some of these encounters give me the opportunity to basically present these type of Pokemon. Obviously, there's no guarantee that they'll catch them, but I do present them. So if they want them bad enough, then they have to do the work to weaken the Pokemon, use their Pokeballs, put status effects, whatever they need. But back to encounter basics themselves. There's so much that goes on in this game with typing, the different effects, the different abilities, things that the moves do, the different status conditions, the items. There's so much to keep track of. It's really hard to say, okay, this is the one way to make encounters, make all encounters like that. So I would suggest that you build encounters that could be fun or something that you would like to run. Obviously, keep in mind that the more Pokemon and trainers that you have in an encounter, you're going to have more turns. And obviously, if you've got X number of Pokemon on the trainer side, and then you have more than that on the opposing side, they have action economy. So even though you saw that the Rattatas weren't super dangerous, if they were to just kind of gang up and hit all of their attacks, they could easily whittle down that Machoke. Now just think if you've got 4 players with 4 Pokemon and they're fighting 8 Pokemon, you could get 2 or 3 Pokemon on one, and through action economy, they would just tear through them pretty fast. So I learned in the beginning when I was making my encounters, I would start out kind of small encounters, like the same number of Pokemon that my players had, or maybe add an extra one. And then, or if I'm going to add more, they would just be lower level, so they didn't hit as hard. You're just going to have to kind of play through it, and you're going to have to learn as you go. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Don't be afraid of making it too hard or too easy, because you could always add more encounters. You could add less encounters. You're just going to have to play through it and kind of like, as you're going through, okay, this worked, this didn't, this was too strong, this was too weak. You can always make adjustments mid-encounter. You can use a different move from a Pokemon instead of maybe the strongest attack. Maybe use a status ailment or something like that to kind of reduce the amount of damage they take. Once again, there's just so much going on. It's really hard to tell you exactly how to do it. I had to learn in the trenches, and you're pretty much going to have to learn the same way that I did. I just hope that some of this information was able to kind of help you and give you, like, as you're going to start running a game or maybe start playing a game, this is some of the stuff that you're probably going to see. So from a GM perspective, the different things that take into effect, what type of Pokemon they have, what level they are, all of their items, things like that. For a player, have a diverse team as much as you can get based on what the GM provides you. Level your Pokemon like kind of evenly. Don't have one real big tentpole Pokemon that's got all your levels and held items and everything, and then everything else is just like as you caught it. Because if that one big Pokemon goes down, then you're kind of left with Pokemon that are subpar. It's kind of like the games in the same respect, right? As you have like a whole belt of 6 Pokemon, level them all as you go, train them every day with your training stuff that you can do in the morning. Level them up, choose your moves wisely, think of what you can use in an encounter, not just the big damaging moves, but also the different status elements. Can I paralyze something? Can I confuse a Pokemon? Can I put it to sleep? Your crowd control effects. Any of you that are familiar with any kind of, MMOs, if there's 3 Pokemon and you only have 1 and you put 1 to sleep, now you only have to deal with 2. And if you confuse another one, they may end up hitting themselves or not being able to act, which helps you out a lot. So keep that in mind as well. So what I want to do now, I'm going to give you 3 types of encounters that I use regularly in my game. Now this is just like kind of what I call these types of encounters and what they're designed to do. How you build them is entirely up to you, but keep in mind what the encounter is designed to do. So let's go into those now. All right, gamers. So the first type of encounter that I use quite a bit in my games is what I call the tax encounter. So this type of encounter is designed to not really be a challenge, like a deadly challenge. It's really designed to tax the players through their time and resources. Now you're like, why would you want to do that? Because obviously, as you're playing through the game, like you're not always gonna come across like challenging deadly encounters. You are going to come across, in this example, right? So we're back to the Rattata, but now what I've done, so this Rattata is level 10, this Rattata is level 8. And I've generated them here, okay? As you can see, there's number 2, number 1. They got quick attack, tackle, this guy's got bite, quick attack, tackle, tail whip, okay? So this type of encounter is designed to be kind of like, just like a little cute encounter, right? You're going through there, maybe these two are like arguing over like a piece of food they found or whatever, and you come across them and then they see you and then they're like, maybe they think that you're here to steal their food and they're not going to have it. So they're going to attack you. This isn't super dangerous for this Machoke because he can easily one-shot both of these Rattata. But if they do get a few hits in, it is going to reduce their hit points of the Machoke, but also gives the players an opportunity to scan the Pokemon into their Pokedexes. It gives them an opportunity to catch these particular Pokemon to add to their team or to have in their PC, maybe for trade later, maybe sometime later they meet some other trainer that's looking for a Rattata. Really, it's like his favorite Pokemon. He hasn't been able to find one in the wild. You've got one, he's willing to trade something similar for it, right? However you want to design this, the particular outcome of that is up to you. But this encounter, like I said, is not designed to be deadly. This would be like a significance multiplier times 1. So this would be 18 experience, not even half a level for this Machoke. But what it does, taxes the player with their time so they can't just speed through your routes or speed through your maps onto the next big fight, right? You've got a little bit of world building here because there will be these kind of little encounters that you're going to come across, and you can either run from them, they can catch them, however they want to do it. It's up to the players to decide what to do. But also this could be like if you need like a speed bump, say the game's going a little quick, you're burning through your content, or you want to just slow people down, give them one of these, play through the encounter, especially early on, like you're just learning the game. These kind of little encounters kind of help ease yourself and new players into the game before going on to the big boss battles. So obviously then this, like I said, this gives opportunity to catch these Pokemon so you can increase your roster, things like that. And then the reason why you want to tax their resources, because you don't want them to stockpile all of these items, carrying around all this, healing stuff, right? Sure, they'll eventually buy a bunch of it later, but even if they only got a couple of potions in their pocket, they take a couple of hits, they got to use a potion on their Machoke. Now maybe they only got 1 potion left or 2, right? So then when they meet the big boss, it's a little more challenging. So you can kind of regulate how the players are going to go through your game and some of the decisions they may make in more difficult encounters later. All right, gamers, so here we are in my swamp map that my players just finished running through last game session. So here I've kind of thrown together an encounter that I would say is what I like to call a serious encounter. Like, this is like a good, solid encounter. It's going to put a major drain potentially on their resources. They're really going to have to think about how they're going to use their Pokemon effectively to defend not only themselves, but also to defeat the opposing Pokemon. Now, I've got my 4 players from my game with the 4 Pokemon that they like to use from their belt. We have a Mawile, Kadabra, Honedge, and Milotic. Now we see this guy, he has the Rider class, so he's able to ride his Pokemon around, so he's kind of swimming through the swamp water here. And then 6 Arbok attack. They kind of spring up out of the water, surprise our players. Now, I've decided to make these 6 Abra all level 30, because the average level of the Pokemon that my players have out right now is 30. So now I have action economy on my players. Now, some of my players have moves that they can use, but nothing really offensive to deal damage. So mostly they're relying on their Pokemon to deal the damage in this case. Now, this is designed to hopefully put a drain on their resources. Healing items, things like that, any kind of like antidotes, because obviously Arboks have a lot of poison attacks, to really make them think about how they're going to play out this encounter, not only to defend themselves, because in wild encounters, I would not just have Pokemon fight Pokemon. Wild Pokemon will attack trainers if they have the option. Like this Arbok could potentially just come up here on this bridge, start attacking this trainer. This one could come up here, attack anybody he wants. This one can come up here, attack whoever, right? Then we could potentially, swarm this particular Pokemon and this trainer here, putting them in real trouble. Now the other trainers are like, okay, are they going to help this trainer? Are they going to defend themselves? How are they going to move around? Things like that. This encounter there's a lot of actions going on here. So the 4 player Pokemon, the 4 trainers, and then the 6 Pokemon, a lot of action going on here. This encounter is going to take quite a while. So now just know that learning pretty quick, some trainers will just be like, well, I'm going to throw a Pokeball and see if I get lucky and catch it first try. So this trainer here could potentially catch this Pokemon with really good rolls, even at full health. So now this Pokemon is no longer in the battle. And say the rest of the trainers throw Pokeballs turn 1, they catch another one. So now they're down to 4, right? Now you lose action economy as the GM, so now the encounter gets easier. But say they don't catch them, now they've got to fight them, weaken them, then attempt to catch them. So just know as well, so if you're doing this encounter and say the players catch a couple of Pokemon and they swing it too far in their favor too quickly, you could always bring in extra Arbok or whatever kind of Pokemon you're having the encounter, have extra tokens at the ready to bring in as like a second wave, just to make sure that the encounter doesn't go too quickly, or if it was designed for a particular purpose or you wanted it to go a certain way, you could have the extra Pokemon ready to kind of bring in to rebalance the encounter to really make it as challenging or not as challenging as you want. With it being as dynamic as it is, with the ability to catch basically anything that you come across to really easily get rid of potential threats, always be ready to have extra stuff on the fly or a backup plan if the encounter that you plan to go a certain way doesn't go that way. All right, so the last kind of encounter that I like to throw in every now and then is what I like to call the Highlander encounter. This is the there can be only one kind of encounter. Now, I save this for like pseudo-legendaries or rare Pokemon that are going to be in the world. So as an example, I had in the very bottom corner of this second part of the swamp map, I had this little log here, and there on top of it was a Goomy, which eventually evolves into Goodra, right? Pretty strong dragon-type Pokemon. Now, this is way off the beaten path, as you can tell. There's the path, how they would go that way, then they go up here to get to the exit of the route. This, they'd have to travel through this water down here Now, obviously, there's only one of this Pokemon. This encounter is not challenging at all. This encounter is designed to offer a potentially a really strong Pokemon to the party, but now they kind of have to figure out who's going to attempt to catch this Pokemon. Now they could fail, and the Gumi could just run away off into the water, and it's disappeared and it's gone. That's kind of how I ran this encounter. If they attempted to catch it and they failed on its turn, it would just kind of slink into the water and just kind of just be gone, and they would never see another one of this Pokemon again. So just like when you're playing the games, right? There's only one of some Pokemon like Mewtwo's and the legendary birds and stuff like that. I wouldn't do this all the time. I would just save this for either rare Pokemon, obviously legendaries, or any other type of Pokemon that maybe in your world is rare. Maybe Rattata are rare. And during their adventures, they only come across a single one. That's their only chance to catch it. Now, obviously, this isn't worth hardly any experience points, and it's not what this is for. This is to make the party decide, okay, who's going to get to catch and potentially use this Pokemon? And if they fail, no one gets it. But I've sprinkled probably 4 or 5 of these kind of encounters throughout the game. Like I had a Hawlucha that was caught, the only one that they're probably ever going to see, maybe. This Gumi is definitely the only one that they're ever going to see in my world. And not saying that this is the only one that exists. Maybe in this world they're really rare. Just as they travel around, this is its only habitat, and this is the only one that they ever saw. Don't be afraid to include these type of encounters, because not all Pokemon are going to be plentiful. Not all Pokemon are going to be everywhere. This is the only place to get this Pokemon, and it's the only one. This encounter isn't worth anything, like I said, for experience, but in the end, once they get it, they train it, they level up, it's going to be a strong addition to any one of their teams. All right, gamers, so that's really what I've got to say briefly on encounters. Just remember, encounters are going to be one of the things you're going to have to build them, play them, have a backup plan, have a main plan of what the encounter is for. Is it just a speed bump? Is it a big encounter? Boss encounters, I'm going to do a video on separately. We're going to talk about how to do a boss, how to run a boss, like a storyline to do with a boss, that kind of stuff. A really strong, powerful, deadly Pokemon that they're going to encounter, but then rewards are going to be well worth it. So just know you're going to have to do a lot of experimentation, a lot of different encounters, and you're really going to have to learn like what works and what doesn't. I've said it before, but with the system being so dynamic, being able to basically capture any Pokemon they come across, you bring out 4 Pokemon, they all throw a Pokeball and get lucky, they all catch them. Maybe the Pokemon don't even get a turn, and now your encounter's over. What do you do, right? Just be ready for things like that to happen in your game. So I hope this helps. If it did, hit the like button so other people can see the video and it can help them as well. If you have other questions regarding encounters, put them in the comments below. I do plan to do a live stream sometime soon. I've got a lot of prep to do for next week, so maybe in the next few days I'll do one. We'll just see how things go. It's really busy. We're getting onto the holidays here, but I've got encounters to build and things like that. So if I do one of those live streams, come over, ask questions. We can work through it together. You can give me ideas, things like that. So with all of that said, I hope you all have happy holidays. You stay safe and happy gaming.